The numbers told the story. They always do.
It's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
This is a numbers game with Gill Alexander on VSiN.
Hour number 2 of a numbers game at VSiN, the sports betting network, VSiN.com, Game Plus, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV, and of course, Sirius XM channel 158. VSiN on Sirius XM 158 from here to eternity, all day long, 24/7. Thanks for finding us once again on Sirius XM. We get tweets at Beating the Book. By the way, Chris Fallica coming up here momentarily. Steve Fezzik, Dr. Bob. Football. Nasty Nell on Twitter. Now hailing from the great state of Florida, from high school announcer to the pros, formerly known as producer number 9, Kelly the Cutman Bidlin. I tried to get Kelly a nickname after I was on with Sway this morning, and his producer's name was Torch. That's all I could think about was we got to get Kelly a better name. Buddhist Man, K. Rumple Bidlin. Everybody's showing me snapshots of their Sirius XM app now, channel 158, and how my name is misspelled. Come on! Is that Mr. H pointing that out as well? Larry Fresh, welcome back to Sirius. I like Hurricane for Kelly's nickname, so that's what I will be calling him. Kudos on the E40 Hurricane, singing Gil. Oh, you're very welcome. Chuckism1, here's my vote. Kelly Pitchfork Bidlin. What say you? Pitchfork. Joe C714, will the VSiN app still be active now that you're on Sirius? Also, all the picks and articles should be moved there. Yes, the VSiN app will still be active, and if you want all the articles, you go to vsin.com. They are all there, plentiful. But the VSiN app is outstanding. It will remain. Colin Murphy, there it is. Kelly just unintentionally installed his own nickname. Boom, Bidlin. Double J's, lovely night of tennis wagering. I played your Umberto Games Over, which was going to be a winner until Feast retired. Yes, it was. Also had Mensick. Oh, you had Mensick. I'm so sorry. Blew a 2-set lead as Alejandro Davidovich Fokina won his second straight match, coming back from a 2-0 deficit. Bobby Geddes, I don't care what anyone says. That tennis grading explanation was in fact riveting. But actually, I never heard it explained that way before, and it makes total sense. Thank you, sir. And then finally, Mandy Davison. Ovi is going to do it, fellas. Talking about Ovechkin this year. Netted one last night for an OT winner, making it 21 goals on the season with 21 to go to break the record. He's talking about Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals record in the NHL. Grade 8 has his 21 goals in just 29 games, missing 16 games due to injury. Yes, absolutely. And we all thought, as Washington people, that Ovechkin, the way that his age curve was going, was his declining goal production was going to push it to next year. But not the case. He has been scoring at an unbelievable pace once again. Speaking of Washingtonians, Rufus Peabody, he texted me yesterday. He was going to Detroit. How stupid am I? We'll bring in Chris Fallica, the Bear from Fox Sports, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. Rufus texted me he's going to Detroit. Not for 1 second did I put 2 and 2 together, because this is what I love, because as big sports bettors, people, there's some too cool for school crowd. They're like, you still like teams or sports bettors. We're better than that. I love that Rufus still maintains his Orioles love and his Skins love. I love that about him.
No, it's great. And it's the same thing I was discussing with some friends, if Miami were to make a college football playoff run and I didn't have a show to do. But yeah, I'll absolutely go and hang out and watch my alma mater play for either a Berthman championship game or whatever. And obviously didn't have to worry about that. But I kind of get jaded sometimes, especially being in the media, about how you're not really allowed to root for your favorite team or root for the Yankees or root for the Jets or root for the Islanders or whoever else. But it's good to still have a little bit of a connection, because it gives you a little bit of a flashback to your youth.
Yeah, and that's how we all got here, right? We all little boys loving sports, just innocently, We didn't
little boys just innocently locking themselves in their bedroom after Don Shula cheated in the 1982 AFC Championship game and didn't put a tarp on the field and knew that the Jets were going to beat them, and then that kid didn't get a chance to see his New York Jets beat the Washington Redskins in the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. That went on for way too long as A.J. Dewey takes another fumble or interception back to the end zone for the Dolphins.
That was terrible. That ruined me.
What Chris is referring to is the AFC Championship after the 1982 season, where the Jets traveled to Miami for the AFC Championship, while Washington ended up winning the Super Bowl out of the NFC, beating the Dolphins eventually. But in that AFC Championship, it was just a downpour of rain, and Shula correctly sort of surmised that the Jets were a much faster team and could benefit from a quick field. So he was like, let it rain. And the Dolphins, I think they shut out the Jets, didn't they?
14-0.
14-0. AJ's Dewey scored twice? or just one of them?
No, I think Andre Franklin might have had the other touchdown.
Andre Franklin reference on the show. All right, Chris, for those new here on Sirius XM 158, you probably know Chris, the beloved Chris Fallica, from his days at ESPN doing College Game Day. Now he does Big Noon Saturdays at Fox Sports. Of course, he has his own podcast, the Bear Bets Pods, in case you're unaware, doing pro football and college football. Let's start with college football, your bread and butter. National championship on Monday night, Ohio State, 8-point favorites, 8.5-point favorites against Notre Dame. I'll ask the same thing. We got it at 8 consensus. I'll ask the same thing about Notre Dame that I have been about the Texans and the Commanders and to some extent the Rams. Do the Irish have a puncher's chance here, let alone covering the spread? Oh, they do.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. They are so well coached, and they do the little things in the games that you need for an underdog to win outright. You look at the middle 8 of games right before half, both Georgia and Penn State right after half. Georgia, Penn State scoring right before the half, scoring right after the half. Those middle 8 period of the game was massive for Notre Dame coming back and winning those games. And you look at Ohio State; they've had a propensity in some of those games, whether it was Michigan or whether it was Penn State, they turned the ball over at times. And look, they are not as talented as Ohio State. They're going to need things to go their way. They're going to need some reshuffling on their offensive line to go their way to kind of protect Riley Leonard and open up some holes for Price and Jeremiah Love on the ground. They're going to have to play close to a perfect game to do it. But it's certainly puncher's chance, absolutely. This is not Washington or TCU in the national title game last couple of years where they were just completely overmatched.
All right, puncher's chance is one thing. Let's rephrase that. Where's your actual bet, though?
I bet Ohio State -8.
Okay.
And the reason I say, typically the spreads have not mattered in these college football championships and semifinal games lately. Like you look at the last 6 games, either the favorite covered and won easily or the underdog won outright. If you look at the college football playoff and BCS championship game, 12 underdogs have covered, 9 have won outright. So like typically it's either favorite wins and covers or underdog wins outright. And I tend to lean towards Ohio State just being the favorite and covered here. I think what we've seen from the Ohio State team in the college football playoff, I think they power rate a little bit higher than what Ohio State from the regular season would power rate as. And look, I think at this point, Jeff Schwartz and I had this conversation on the pods about how Notre Dame defensively with Al Golden, the type of defense they play with a lot of man coverage. We know that Will Howard has a very good QBR, 15+ yards in the air. He's got the great wide receivers. You're not going to change who you are at this point if you're Notre Dame defensively. You got to do what got you here. But I just think Ohio State is more well equipped than say Indiana or Penn State or even Georgia with Gunnar Stockton, the backup quarterback there to handle Notre Dame's defense. So I do ultimately think this will be a I don't want to say resounding bumping of Notre Dame, but I think this probably ends up somewhere in that 10 to 17 point range. Ohio State win. Maybe they put an exclamation point on lead.
And I don't want to linger on this too much, but I do feel compelled to ask you, where does there's too much time in between these games rank in your ways to improve the 12-team playoff heading into next year?
It ranks in there. It's certainly not at the top. I think it's the seeding of the teams of the bracket, which is the number one problem with the college football playoff right now. But I think the issue is you're going to have to get the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl to play ball. And you're going to have to get, what are we going to do with these conference title games? How do we handle that? You don't want to have a game the same day as either the Heisman Trophy ceremony or the Army-Navy game. So, there are a lot of things with the college football calendar that are going to need to fall into place. But, yeah, the fact that you've had these random different periods of games between the games is kind of ridiculous.
And I get it. You have to dance around the NFL. They're not being real nice about it, so you can't, lock into Monday nights.
They were there first, though, Gil. I will say that.
Yeah. But, pick a night and then just go with that night for these, I think. About the NFL, 4 games, obviously. One not like the others. Obviously, the Ravens and Bills is the marquee matchup. It's the most closely lined game. Where are your bets throughout the weekend in the NFL?
You and I are kind of head-to-head here on the NFC, and I know Fez is on liking the Eagles as well. Yeah, I like the Eagles. I just think what we saw in that first game at SoFi, and the Rams now go on the road in an unfavorable weather situation, a hostile environment, and do a 180 from what we saw in that game out at SoFi. You look at the Eagles scoring drives in that game, 12 plays, 10 plays, 10 plays, 8 plays, 12 plays. The Rams just could not get them off the field because Barkley ran for 250-something yards in the game. So I just wonder if the Rams are going to be able to do that now on the road in Philadelphia to be able to get a result here. And we talk about like the short week, but everything that the Rams have had to deal with both on the field and off the field, I think that does matter here. And I think the Eagles now had a week to shake off a little bit of rust. I'm not going to say they were perfect last week. I don't want to pin it all on the rust, but I think the fact that they got a game, they'll be a little bit crisper as well. So I played the Eagles. I stole a bet from my colleague Jeff Schwartz over on Bear Bets. Kenneth Gainwell over 9.5 rushing yards. I played that because you do see him come in quite a bit and get a couple of carries. So I think 10 yards very likely there. And I played a weird one in the Lions Commanders games. I played longest field goal rather in the game, under 46.5 yards. And it kind of goes what you were talking about with
like that.
Like the high variance like on the podcast. Like these are two coaches that love to go for it. If they got 4th and 4 on the 38-yard line, they're not kicking a 55-yard field goal. They're going for it. So I think you're going to see maybe a reduced number of field goal attempts in this game, and certainly longer field goals with the potential to have a touchdown as a result of the drive. Touchdowns are going to win this game, being that it seems to be a higher scoring game. So under 46.5 yards as the longest field goal in that game.
Under 46.5 yards in the Skins-Lions game. Interesting prop, and I'm with you on that. I like the logic behind it. Chris Fallica, everybody, at Chris Fallica, F-A-L.
HTTR, Gil.
Let's go, baby. Left hand up. By the way, I hate that left hand up thing. I don't know why I just did that. HTTR, forever. Chris Fallica, at Chris Fallica, Fallica on the old Twitter machine. The Bear Bets Pod from Fox Sports. Steve Fezzik in studio next on a numbers game at VSiN.
A numbers game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
In case you missed it, VSiN, the sports betting network, now live 24/7 on Sirius XM channel 158. Whether you're at home, on the road, or on the go now, there's more ways than ever to tune into VSiN. Stream us live on VSiN.com, the VSiN Watch app, YouTube TV, iHeartRadio, Fire TV, Roku, and now Sirius XM. We are pumped to be back. We get tweets at Beating the Book. I'm sure some about Sirius as well. I'm going to guess. I always appreciate the feedback from everybody. People now are sort of objecting to the Kelly Bidlin new nickname thing, Rolando Sperando. Midland was the nickname I remember when I first heard Kelly on VSiN. Whatever happened to that? Yeah, Kelly Midland Bidlin. We used to call him that. I don't know if he middles anymore, though. So can he be Kelly Midland Bidlin anymore if he doesn't middle? Jason McKinney, after hearing his tennis golf intro, his nickname should be Country Club. Bobby Knuckles, for as long as I've known Kelly, his nickname has been Kelly Midland Bidlin. But if I'm entering one into the suggestion box, I say Keyboard Crusher. I know you can hear him typing, Gil. Yes, I can. Ryan Hyatt, the semi-legendary second hour of the Friday numbers game show on VSiN with Gil and Kelly. We have a great shot at finding out if the dump button has changed with the reunion of VSiN and Sirius XM. Lots of pressure on Fallica, Fezzik, and Dr. Bob. 3Jack, H3131. Happy New Year and all the best to you and yours. How about Kelly? Bad take on indoor football, Bidlin. Yes. That should be his name. Glad you're back on Sirius, so I don't have to connect my phone to my car radio anymore. Have a great weekend, guys. Yes, this is a thing. We love our other ways you can connect to VSiN, but again, there's a certain part of the audience that the actual act of having to connect your phone to your car radio is a bridge too far. So we're thrilled for those folks that we're back on Sirius XM 158. Jaime Leva, upon further review, isn't Midland or not Midland, or no Midland, already Mr. Bidlin's nickname, courtesy of Matt Brown. Uncle Bush, on the same morning Gil goes on Sway in the Morning, he admits you couldn't pay him enough to go to the club. Gil, not just a citizen, but a senior citizen, apparently. You're on to me. Joseph Freda, that's a good one, just like Jeff Parlay, all these. Yes, Jeff Parlay was always a great nickname, for sure, for producer number 5 and 8, the Grover Cleveland of producers. And, okay, and there's more tweets. We'll get to all of them. But ladies and gentlemen, to my left, to your right, because we don't want to delay it any further, because he's got tons of football insights and bets to make. It's the only back-to-back winner of the Hilton Supercontest. For those joining us on Sirius XM 158 for the first time, the Hilton Supercontest is now the Westgate. was the granddaddy of all contests, handicapping, football, NFL football handicapping contests here in Vegas. It has existed for 30 years almost at this point. And Steve Fezzik is the only person to have won it back-to-back. He joins us now in studio. How you doing, man?
Soon to be a pioneer, probably in a couple of years, right?
Will you also say, like Bob, you're like, I don't want to be called a pioneer. Legend does fine for me. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw... Derek was talking about, it's great to have the old guys like Steve Fezzik and, in a contest just hanging around. And now they're starting to say, how are you doing today, young man? I'm getting old.
All right. There's many things we got to get to. The first of all is I love when you have this, you will admit, maybe you won't, but will you admit that you have a bit of a craw in your, I don't know what the expression is, but this bothers you about the gambling Hall of Fames. And you texted, you said, Rufus Peabody, who was just on the show with us, has made millions bets more than anybody I know, not in the Gambling Hall of Fame. This bothers you.
Well, there's two of them. The Spanky Hall of Fame is good. The other one is just like the Administrator Paper Pusher Hall of Fame.
Right.
Think about this.
Rufus will get in the Hall of Fame
if you had a poker Hall of Fame, would you put in... Hey, let's put in all these poker room managers, right? Because they're critical to the success of poker. Phil Ivey, you're going to have to wait a little while. Mike Manisau, no, not
That's
quite.
A great point.
Not quite good enough body of work, but we'll get all the poker room managers in there. And that's really, my problem. Like a guy like Alan Boston that I've had a truculent relationship with. Obviously, Alan belongs in the Hall of Fame. What's the guy got to do,
Remember when Cosell called Ali truculent, and Ali's response was, I don't know what that means, but if it's good, I'm it. Something like that. Yeah, truculent. You're truculent. Okay, the other thing you want to say here, you said no one is talking. First of all, I object to that because we were just talking about it earlier. You said no one is talking about how the weather is going to affect these games. Well, I threw it out as a question earlier. You say specifically how it's going to help Buffalo against Baltimore, and especially Kansas City and Philly in their respective games. Okay.
Yeah, I got
what's your angle there?
It's funny. I got like the Rob Pizzola group saying Fezzik's got Alzheimer's, and he's like he gets caught up on this stuff like weather, and it really doesn't matter at all in our models. Did you watch the Miami Kansas City playoff game last year when Miami was shivering on the sideline?
They would immediately probably respond if I could just sort of guess what they would respond. Well, that's Miami, they would say.
Well, sure. Well, last time I checked, let me check the map. Houston. A soft dome team in southern Texas, it's probably not advantageous for them to head
but not
to
Baltimore.
Kansas City.
But not Baltimore.
Now, here's where, maybe I'm a little crazy. Old guy, get off the lawn. Baltimore, it gets cold in the wintertime. It gets in it gets in the 20s. You know what? In Buffalo, it gets down to 0 all the time, and it's going to be frigid in Buffalo. I will argue that's an advantage for Buffalo. Not as much as facing Houston, but certainly. And obviously, the beach kids in L.A. that had to just fly to Arizona. Fallica talked about this, and I think he was spot on. Really bad spot. Have to go to Arizona, fly back on Tuesday, distractions from the fires. Now you got to fly to Philly on Friday.
Don't you and I have a dinner on this game?
We do. Where are we going? We going Nobu? I love Nobu. Like people say, I'm like so negative about stuff. Nobu does everything right at Caesars.
I didn't mean to break your flow, but can I ask you a question that we never talk about? So it's supposed to snow, right? A little bit. I assume the Eagles are wearing their home greens, right? Whatever that shade of green is.
Yes.
Pardon me, Philly fans.
I love that Kelly green.
All right, is it a Kelly green? And the Rams will be wearing their white uniforms right in the snow. I always think about this at Boise State, by the way.
Camouflage.
This is what I'm talking about. Really, like we never talk about this, but because we don't talk about like stupid things like this usually. But is it stupid? Because when Boise State plays at home, there are times where I feel like the quarterback misses their receivers because it camouflages.
Can't see the safeties.
The blue,
two biggest home field advantages: college football, camouflage Boise in blue, camouflage Oregon in green.
Okay,
absolutely.
So could it be a detriment to the Rams? I'm just sort of throwing out every possible. We've done a week on these games. I figured I'd throw this one out as well.
It's interesting. I've never heard a team from LA that would benefit from the snow, but that's interesting. But I wasn't even aware the Rams were going to wear their white, but it would make complete sense. Anyone who saw Die Hard 2.
Oh, that's true. I'm wrong. Or it's the Eagles who are going to wear their whites at home.
Oh, then the Eagles would have the edge.
Don't the Eagles wear their greens at home? Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not up on it, but like anyone who saw Die Hard 2 knows that everyone's wearing white. In the snowstorm, you couldn't see the terrorists. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I just think for a week we talk about these 4 games. You have to think about all new angles.
Well, the key is if you can find one angle, one like the impact of the weather, that no one else is pricing correctly, you can assume everything else is being priced correctly. Hey, I am on the Eagles -6. I want to emphasize, why are the Eagles not getting more love? I get it. They were lousy in September. Both their wide receivers were injured. I would argue these Eagles have been an absolute juggernaut. They haven't played a bad game since September. They played they played 3 suspect games. They won by 5 or 6 against Jacksonville and Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. They were led by 12 against Leighton against Jacksonville. And they lost to your Washington football team in a game that the Eagles had their quarterback knocked out in the first half. Mm-hmm. And a little bit of a miracle at the end game when A.J. Brown drops the pass that would have sealed the game, and then
Devontae Smith, yes,
and Devontae Smith, thank you. And then and then obviously Jaden Daniels does what he does, and he matriculates down the field just in time. But Blinko fell into Washington. Washington lost the other game by 8, and look at what the Eagles have done. They won in Baltimore by 5. Baltimore's the best regular season team in the NFL. They won in Cincinnati by 17. They beat Pittsburgh by 14. I mean, like their resume, they beat the Cowboys twice by 30. They beat the Giants by 28. I mean, you stack it. This is like the 85 Chicago Bears since, October 1st.
Easy with the 85 Bears comparison. All right. 91 Eagles, maybe a more apt comparison. Also a great defensive history. Also, Rufus came on and Chris Fallica just came on. They had interesting comments to make about the Detroit-Washington game. The high variance of 4th downs, Fallica sort of doing that with a field goal under prop of 46.5 yards. You have another creative way to bet that same kind of narrative.
Yes. Now, this is not widely available. Let's go to DraftKings. It's there right now. Punts under 6.5 -170. Go. We are betting punts under -170. Put it into your betting.
This is not a drill.
Yes. And hit submit. Well, think about this. I mean, Rufus basically and Fallica, basically, both of those guys came on before me.
Yeah.
I'm the great aggregator. No, I did text you along. I've been saying this since early in the week. How are we going to get to 7 punts? Detroit doesn't punt. They go for it on 4th and 5 from midfield. Washington doesn't punt.
Tress Way is stealing a paycheck for Washington.
It's not who cares. I mean, yeah, he doesn't even have to show up. Bold prediction, there will be 1 punt in this game.
Wow.
And if there's going to be 1 punt, it's going to go under 6.5. Yes.
Under 6.5 punts. But again, the under 6.5 punts, the under a 46.5 yard field goal is the long. And everything Rufus was saying about sprinkle some on the money line on the Commanders because of if you believe that Washington can cover. Right, you have to have that conviction to begin with. Let's start there. But if you have that conviction, you absolutely should sprinkle some on the money line because the high variance nature gives them that puncher's chance.
You don't even need that conviction. Like Rufus was just saying, hey, I cannot even like Washington +9.5. And still, by the way, if you do have a free bet, these are perfect free bets to use. And you're teasing the other guys, the favorites. Protect it. Protect those teasers with free bets +400 on the money line in the other direction, and you're probably going to win one or the other because the teams hopefully won't win by 1 or 2.
Steve Fezzik in studio. He's got teasers. Speaking of that, we have teasers to get to in the divisional round and props. That's on the other side. Numbers Game, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
A numbers game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Are you the kind of player who wants to drop $10,000 or more on an NFL line at the best price in the market? Or maybe you're looking for instant acceptance on your in-game bets? You need Sport Trade, the app that's revolutionizing sports betting with -104 lines instead of the standard -110. Instant in-game betting and a dedicated concierge player service. Sport Trade delivers a premium betting experience like no other. Now live in New Jersey, Colorado, Iowa, Arizona, and Virginia. Download Sport Trade today. Use code VSiN to earn 10% cash back on every wager during your first week. That's VSIN. Terms apply. Got to be 21 years or older to play. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Gill Alexander, we get tweets at Beating the Book. Best listeners in the game. I will stand by this. Best listeners, absolutely. This is from Scott Weston. I think Kelly's nickname should be Snakes since he fantasizes about them. LOL. Love the show. P.S. Colonoscopy all good yesterday. Thanks for the apple juice tip. Yes! If you're getting colonoscopy, go with the Mott's apple juice. Clear apple juice. It works. It replaces the other disgusting stuff. Kevin Ryan. Kelly Smaller Belly Bidlin. Ooh, that's a good one. Real Murphy Bruno. Nickname. How about Kelly the Cuban Wayne Gretzky Bidlin? There's that. Tom F. I think there can only be one nickname for Bidley. Stingray. So many choices. Lance Schaefer, hold the jelly Kelly. Kelly Midland, no more belly Kelly. Those are all great ones. Sly Bride, the Eagles' primary color is midnight green, although us lifers prefer the Kelly green. Yeah, Kelly green was the old Reggie White era. Now it is the midnight green. And this is from Jason, pick up Steve a pastry. Oh, he's talking to somebody else there, not just me. I think he's talking to Kelly. He loves the scones, he said. And then, Mark Geiger, in-house attorney for a numbers game at Price Horse. You're comparing producer 5 and 8 to Grover Cleveland. POTUS, when my grandfather was born in 1887 in New Hampshire, is dated now. I am certain that a large number of ANG listeners are celebrating January 20th for reasons other than MLK Day or Ohio State versus Notre Dame. What he's referring to is that Donald Trump is now our second president, alongside Grover Cleveland, that had one term separated by someone else's term before he had his second term. We will still go with Grover Cleveland for Jeff Parlay because I don't know if Jeff, there's a lot of connotation with modern day people. So if we keep it at Grover Cleveland, no one really knows no one has any, sort of judgments. So we'll keep it with Grover Cleveland.
Not on my bingo card.
I always call him Grover Cleveland, my producers. Brad Sports, boy, oh boy, it was nice being able to listen to you in the car this morning, Gil. Take care. I am so glad, Brad. I think you speak for a lot of people who have us now back at Sirius XM 158. All day long. And Shine the Professor says he's going to take over one punt in the Lions command skins game for the farm. Over one punt from Professor Shine.
All right, 1.5, and we're going to do dinner on it. I got under 1.5.
What about, can we interest you in 1.5, Shine? How about that?
Hey, help the judge find his wallet.
Okay, before we get back to your bets, because you have teasers, you have props. You heard our discussion, me and Bill Krackenberger, about tipping. You have an underrated person to tip.
Absolutely. So room attendants. Think about this. You're just handing out 5s and 10s. You're tipping your blackjack dealers 25s like you're Rockefeller. All right?
Yeah.
And then you stay in your room, and then your room attendant has to clean up in it. Think about the mess you left that room in the last time you were in Vegas.
For all those days you spend there.
And you don't leave nothing? I mean, if you're there for 3 days, leave a 20. Better yet, the first night, leave a 10. The last night, leave a 10. Absolutely. They are the hardest working, lowest paid people. And, so often you just forget about them because you don't see them. And they're the ones that are working the hardest for you.
That is 100% a good pro tip. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. And it is the most likely to be forgotten, right? Because you often are like, I got to get to the airport. And you forget it. So absolutely, that should be the person. What did you refer to? The room attendant. Very nicely termed.
In the movie, in the book, I think, Super Casino, I think they mentioned, like, when the Luxor opened, the maids do want to be called room attendants.
Room attendants.
Some treat with respect.
Yeah,
It's a very, very underrated, important part of your whole Vegas experience.
Male man, male woman likes to be called mail carrier as well. So certain thing as well. I'd like to hear you call it mail carriers from this point forward. All right, teasers this week. What do you got?
So, Rufus talked about the value on the money lines, and I don't disagree. But now think about this. You can play like plus 400, plus 450 on these teams on teasers, on money lines. But the teasers are the opposite of the money lines in a lot of ways, where you're teasing. And right now at DraftKings, Kansas City's minus 8.5. You've got a dynasty. You have a dynasty going on. You've got at quarterback a team going for the third straight championship, playing a very middling, injured, average, soft dome team from the South.
Wow.
Of course, you're going to play Kansas City down from 8.5 to 2.5, and you've got some good options as well. You've got those Lions; they're minus 8.5 to minus 9. Got to get the Lions down to minus 2.5 as well. If you want to play Rufus's, plus 440 on the money line, also. I mean, they dovetail nicely. It's like in Abrams just wrote this book. I don't have the title of it, that talks about, like, you love when you have two bets that are like hedged against each other.
Dan Abrams.
Yes. A+ for the math, world-class math. Basically, his title of his book should be Always Play Back.
Got to get him on the show.
He's like, Always Play Back is the title of the book. Basically, if you have a break-even bet in one direction and a huge bet in the other direction, you should actually bet the same. It's counterintuitive on both, and just let your bankroll just matriculate, go. And we're going to tease Buffalo from the plus 1.5. That's at DraftKings up to the 7.5. Do not tease to plus 7. You need to get it up to plus 7.5.
And Buffalo looking for a dance partner specifically, or are you just saying general terms?
We're gonna shove with the Chiefs. We'll
shove with the Chiefs.
The Chiefs is going to be our key in all our teasers. These are all 2-team, 6-point, -120 teasers, and we're gonna do KC Detroit, KC Buffalo.
Okay, what about some props, Mr. Smart Man? What do you got here?
Let's go with the Brown. What can Brown do for you? Let's go to 2 Brown. So I'm very concerned. I'm very pro Eagles, but I'm worried about A.J. Brown. I don't like his interviews where he's been saying, well, my knee is what it is, but I've got good training people and they'll get me out here. And he had 1 catch for 10 yards last week. So A.J. Brown
he's too busy reading. He's got things to do.
You know what? It's great to see someone multitasking like that. So under 70 receiving yards, and we're going to go Washington's receiver. You know about him.
Oh, De'Ami Brown.
Under the Raider, De'Ami Brown has quietly become the number 2 wide receiver for the Washington football team. He got like 87 last week. He's averaged 46 the last 5 weeks, but he did nothing the first half of the year.
Yeah.
So the odds makers are setting his lines based upon year-to-date averages all wrong. De'Ami Brown, it's at, I think FanDuel has this, over 33.5 receiving yards.
So just to be clear, under on A.J. Brown, 70. Over on De'Ami Brown of the Skins, over 33.5.
And if you're driving and get confused, just assume both Browns will get 50 yards, and you'll be good.
There you go. And by the way, I don't know if it is De'Ami Brown the number 2. Obviously, the incomparable Terry McLaurin is your number 1. Is it De'Ami Brown? Is it Olamide Zaccheaus? I don't know if they have a defined number 2.
They're close, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Josh Allen, over 8.5 rush attempts in the Bills-Ravens game.
You know, everyone's been coming on all week, and I agree with it, that the models just don't price these quarterbacks, willing to put their body on the line and run more. And Josh Allen got 46 yards last week, but he didn't run in the second half. He got 1 carry for 4 yards because the game was in hand. This game isn't going to be in hand. This is going to be a dogfight. There's going to be so many plays where he's going to tuck it and pick up, 5 yards, 7 yards.
It's still their best play.
It's unstoppable. I mean, he and Mahomes, I couldn't argue with Mahomes over as well. Yes.
Okay. And then college football Monday night. This is a creative way to bet, the Ohio State Notre Dame game. An under, but specifically the first quarter under. Why?
Because when the Super Bowl plays, we always love playing that first quarter under and to start slow. Well, this is the same thing, basically. It's the Super Bowl of college football. They've gone through like a playoff format. Both teams are like, Notre Dame has learned the way to win in advance is to let the other guys screw it up, right? When they play Georgia, it's just don't turn the ball over, take care of the football, and be careful. And Ohio State is the much better team. They know if they don't mess it up, they're going to win the game. So I expect, and Ohio State plays a lot slower than they have in prior years, 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. We're going to get a scoreless first quarter. We're going to go under 10, -120. Do not play under 9.5. That 10 is so important.
You just brought up a book recommendation from Dan Abrams. By the way, you can follow Dan at Dr. Raz WSOP, meaning World Series of Poker. Dr. Raz WSOP on Twitter. Dan has a new book out that you love, and we have a question on Twitter from Terry Elkins. Does Fez have books recommendations listed somewhere?
Yes, but Logan Fields is like the greatest sports betting book ever.
That's the 2020.
The 2020 Winning at Sports Betting by Logan Fields. It's like How to Win at Sports for Dummies. So if you read the Abrams book, you'll be like, if you went to MIT or Stanford, and like you got an electrical engineering degree like he did, you're gonna love this.
So you
book.
love that kind of thing.
Yes, but if you are like a blackjack dealer, or if you are a car salesman, you're not going to like the Abrams book. You're like, why didn't he put all this math into the appendices?
I don't know, Dan, but he's probably going to object to this characterization.
Not at all. He'll agree.
He'll agree with you?
He even said, I probably should have put a lot of that math, which is impeccable, by the way, into the appendices. But Rufus Peabody will love the book. Elihu Feistel will literally, while he's doing his business on the commode, he'll be reading this over and over.
Elihu's got his own books as well. Elihu Feistel. Yeah.
Yes.
And then, so again, 2020 sports betting from
Logan Fields.
Logan Fields is always your big
the greatest sports betting. The odds by Chad Millman is number 2. Documents the Rams' greatest show on turf, World Championship. Joe Lupo at the Stardust, who kicked me out years and years ago for a year, and the incomparable Alan Boston. Steve, always a pleasure, man. What a football season. We'll see you on Friday. Thank you, Gilly.
Steve Fezzik, everybody, at Fezzik Sports on Twitter. Dr. Bob on the College Football National Championship. Next on A Numbers Game, right here at VSiN.
A Numbers Game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back on a numbers game, we do our show live from Circa, a resort casino in downtown Las Vegas, the beautiful background, the world's largest sports book. Obviously, for those listening on Sirius XM 158, you can't see that, but if you check it out on the VSiN app, you will know what I'm talking about. We get tweets at Beating the Book. Clone Bone, Kevin, Kelly Falconer Bidlin, because of Kelly's penchant for loving the Falconer that's over at the Wynn. Ryan Thompson, always leave a tip, talking about our tipping with the room attendant. He said, always leave a tip for the housekeeping. As a person that travels often, I leave $20 per day, but if there's too much, if that's too much, anything you can leave them helps. Makes a big difference for the hardest working people in the hotel. I could not agree more, Ryan. This is from Charles in Connecticut at Hoop Homer. Thumbs up on tipping room attendant. I tip as you suggest, but also the loose change I have accumulated. Who wants loose change going through TSA? It adds up after a week in Vegas, as they are on the lower pay scale. It helps them too. Mark Geiger, you guys are right regarding tipping room attendants, but in my opinion, it should be done every day because many of these folks, mostly female and paid minimum wage, only get 2 or 3 shifts a week. So chances are you have more than one in your room. And finally, Kevin Ryan at Road King KR, Gill Fez doesn't have to be on Twitter to offend people. As a retired car dealer of 50 years, I can tell you for monthly payments to converting money factors, my math is as good as anybody's. Thank you, Kevin, speaking on behalf of car dealers everywhere, retired or current. You're absolutely right. Fez couldn't get out of here without offending someone. I apologize. Our G-Bank Best Bets of the Day, courtesy of G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN, which we do every day on the show as a recap, and every other show here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mine, once again, tonight in tennis. On the ladies' side, Emma Navarro going up against Ons Jabeur. Emma Navarro, the American, minus 117 over there in Melbourne. Also on Beatrice Haddad Maya. She is an even money bet. She is not an even money. She's minus 110. It's a coin flip. Let me be clear. She's minus 110. She is minus 110 bet. She is a Brazilian player who always makes the opponent grind out, and she is taking on Veronika Kudermetova. So that's going to be could very well go 3 sets because apparently Haddad Maya doesn't like beating anybody in straight sets, but she's the play at minus 110. And then Alex Mickelson, the American, at plus 150. Going against Karen Khachanov. So Navarro and Haddad Maya on the ladies' side, Mickelson on the men's side. Football, I have remained the same all week. I'm on the Rams plus 6 against the Eagles. In the snow, it looks like now. And I'm on the Ravens laying the point against the Bills. Both of those are on Sunday. Kelly Bidlin, Blade, whatever we want to call him. Chiefs Lions, the Square Bear teaser of the week. He's got the Chiefs at minus 2, the Lions at minus 2.5 in a 6-point teaser. And he's got the Chiefs paired with the Bills. Got the Chiefs a little later in the week, or maybe earlier in the week at minus 2.5. The Bills teased up through the 3 and the 7 to 7.5. And by the way, what Steve was saying for those who are new bettors who are listening here at Sirius XM for the first time, the most optimal teasers teasing through the 3 and 7 for dogs of 1.5 to 2.5 points, home or away, and teasing down on home favorites of between 7.5 and 8.5 down through the 7 and the 3, which is exactly what Steve Fezzik did. He's on the Chiefs Lions teaser, Chiefs minus 2.5, Lions minus 2.5, laying minus 120 for that. Always lay minus 120. Don't lay more than that if you can help it. Chiefs minus 2.5, Bills plus 7.5 is his other teaser. He is oppo me on the Rams. He's taking the Eagles laying the points. And he's got a Commanders-Lions under prop, under 6.5 punts. He's laying minus 170. That's the one he shouted go for when he was talking about that. He's also got multiple props. Josh Allen over 8.5 rush attempts in the Bills-Ravens game. A.J. Brown under 70 receiving yards in the Eagles-Rams game. And De'Ami Brown over 33.5 receiving yards for Washington in the Commanders-Lions game on Saturday. And in the College Football National Championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame, he's got the first quarter under of 10 points. So a lot of volume for Stevie coming on the show here. And then finally, Chris Fallica, Ohio State. He's laying the juice. As much as he said Notre Dame has a puncher's chance, what's your bet? I'm still laying the points with Ohio State, minus 8. He, too, is on the Eagles, laying the points against the Rams. He's got a prop in that game, Kenneth Gainwell, over 9.5 rushing yards. And he is on the Commanders-Lions, this prop, under 46.5 yards, longest field goal. Once again, the Commanders-Lions prop for Fallica under on the longest field goal, and the Fezzik under punts all is consistent with, again, what Rufus said also, the high variance, the penchant for going for it on fourth downs by both coaches, both Dan Campbell and Dan Quinn, respectively, and the fact that they are more willing to eschew both punts and field goal attempts. I just wanted to work in the word eschew. G-Bank, the official bank of VEASAN, responsible for all of our best bets every day. Don't forget, VEASAN recommends every bettor make the G-Bank Visa Signature Card part of their betting toolbox. Save up to 3 to 5% on cash advance fees, earn cashback rewards on eligible betting transactions, and now for a limited time, you'll get a $250 bonus when you open your account. Spend $1,000 in the first 90 days. Apply now at VEASAN.com/GBank. That's VEASAN.com/GBank. Take advantage of the $250 bonus for a limited time from our friends at G-Bank, the official bank of VEASAN. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. That's a mouthful. Leave some time, though, for Dr. Bob, a pioneer in this business. He is one of the greats, one of the first people to ever use mathematical models and develop a model for predicting the outcome of sports events. He joins us now from outside of Denver, Colorado at Dr. Bob Sports on Twitter, drbobsports.com. That's drbobsports.com. Bob, how are you, sir?
Very good, Gill. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Before we close today, because we won't get a chance to talk to you before the national championship on Monday night, you are most famous. You handicap multiple sports, but you're still most famous for college football. How do you see this game on Monday night?
Well, it's one of those games, like if you just did, if you looked at every game and did some math, and mostly any mathematical algorithm would probably think this line is a bit high. If I weighed every game that each team played equally, you get Ohio State by 5.5 or so. But Ohio State has been relatively better against better teams, especially offensively, while Notre Dame has been relatively worse against better teams, particularly on offense. So when you take a look at that, I'm going to break that down. It comes out a little bit different than Ohio State by 5.5. Now, for the season, the Buckeyes' offense has been 1.8 yards per play, better than an average offense when Will Howard's been in the game. They averaged 7.2 yards per play against teams that would allow 5.4 yards per play to an average FBS team. However, they've obviously raised their level of play in the playoffs. They averaged 7.6 yards per play in 3 playoff games against defensive units that would allow 4.5 yards per play to an average team. So they've been really good offensively. Looking over the course of the season, they've played 7 very good defensive teams. Oregon twice, Penn State, Indiana, Michigan, Tennessee, and Texas. All of those teams are at least a yard per play better than average defensively. And Ohio State has been 2.0 yards per play better than average relative to the defenses they faced in those 7 games against elite defenses, which is 0.2 yards per play better than their season rating. That works out to about 2 points better relatively. So there's a couple points in favor of Ohio State if you look at how they've done against better defensive teams. Now, Notre Dame's defense has been really good all year, 1.4 yards per play better than average. But they're still without defensive tackle Riley Mills. He still has 3 more sacks than any other player in the Notre Dame defense, despite missing 2 games. They haven't missed him so much so far, but I do think that eventually they're going to miss him, and he's worth a little bit less than a point at this point. So there's another little bit extra in favor of Ohio State. Now, this is interesting about the Notre Dame defense. The best 2 offensive teams that Notre Dame faced were Louisville and USC. The Irish gave up an average of 496 total yards at 6.5 yards per play, 29.5 points per game against those 2 teams. The offense that Ohio State most resembles is USC. They run a lot of the same concepts, and USC scored 35 points on 557 total yards against the Irish, 7.2 yards per play. They should have scored more than 35. You might remember they had 2 passes intercepted at the goal line, both returned for touchdowns. Yeah. So USC was the one team that dominated Notre Dame's defense, and Ohio State's offense most resembles USC's offense. So I think Ohio State should be able to move the ball at a good rate and once again play better than normal against a good average, against a good defense. Whereas Notre Dame, they've struggled relatively against good defensive teams. Over the course of the season, they've been 0.9 yards per play better than an average offensively. A very good running game, mediocre passing game. But they've played 10 games against better than average defensive teams. And in those 10 games, they've been only 0.7 yards per play better than average, which is 0.2 yards per play less, which works out to about 1.5 to 2 points worse relatively against better defensive teams. Now, obviously, Riley Leonard had a great game throwing the ball against Penn State, But just the game before that, he only had 79 yards on 25 pass plays against Georgia. So over the course of the season, he's really relatively struggled throwing against good teams, slightly worse than an average quarterback, actually. And they're without their left tackle, Anthony Knapp. And it looked like a problem with the backup left tackle late in that game against Penn State. And that could be an issue here. He's worth about 0.1 yards per play, which is about half a point to a little bit more than that. So overall, when you add it all up, I get Ohio State by 10 when you take into how each team has performed relatively against better teams. So Ohio State by 10.
Ohio State laying the points from Dr. Bob. Bob, have a great weekend, NFL and college.
All right. Thank you.
The great Dr. Bob at Dr. Bob Sports on Twitter. We've done all we can do. Money Moves is next right here on VSiN at Sirius XM Channel 158. Stormy Bonatoni and Jeff Schwartz. Enjoy.